everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the PES Sup. It feels wrong saying it that right? eFootball Supplement. Gary's face is distraught. We're here again, and I've got a star-studded cast with me today. I have Asim. How you doing, Asim? You good?
I'm good, man. Good. I haven't talked PES in a while, so looking forward to talking PES and going through this reveal. Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. We also have Gary. How you doing, Gary?
I'm good. All good. How are you?
I'm just like you. I'm sweating at the moment. It's so hot.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Brutal. And he's back from the trenches. Suff, how you doing? It's been time.
It's been a while, boys. Yeah. When I got the invite, Sonny, I was like, you know what? It's time to make an appearance, and your platform seemed like the one for me.
That's it. Excellent. I really appreciate that. But it's not just my platform, it's everyone in the PES community's platform. They all come together. This is where they can talk PES. I need to get used to saying that. This is where they can talk eFootball. And I'm just messing. I'm going to still refer to it as PES. That's the way it's got to be. But before we get into all that, just for anyone who obviously isn't aware of your guys' work in the community or that, Asim, how did you get into the franchise when you were younger?
My introduction to PES came like with ISS from probably SNES days, International Superstar Soccer, where you could run on the side and just always score that goal. That was my thing, and then I think from then on, obviously PS1 as well, N64. The famous cover with Ince and Ravanelli. That was one of my favorites back in the day as well, and then it turned into Pro Evolution Soccer or Pro Evo or PES, whatever you want to call it, PS2 days, and that's when I kind of got into PES like hardcore, and kind of got into playing it. It took over my life. Like PES was my life back in the day. I grew up playing PES. We used to. I think I mentioned this before when I've been on a podcast a long time ago. Like my thing was like we used to do Master League. Like all my friends, we used to save a Master League teams on a memory card, do like infinite seasons. I used to have like Figo in my team, Ronaldo, all that, and then we used to go to like each other's houses and like battle our Master League teams. We kept like a scorecard, a score sheet. I miss those days. And basically, my entire time at uni was spent playing PES. Really, you'd come. I'd actually miss some lectures probably playing PES, to be honest, because I was so tired from the night before. But yeah, it was my life, like growing up PES, and then I did some like I used to run a forum back in the day. It was called NTSC UK. It was like a really like old school retro forum. We used to have a good little community there. We used to talk about PES. Used to do tournaments as well. I entered like I think it was PES 6, like a tournament at HMV, Oxford Street in London, and I won that. I remember I got a signed Bobby Zamora hoodie because he was like one of the ambassadors at that time. Imagine that. I've got a signed Bobby Zamora. I still don't know where it is, but I've got a signed Bobby Zamora.
What are you lying for? You gave it him back and said, "Where's the trophy?"
I would have preferred a trophy. No, that's harsh from Bobby Zamora. But no, used to play it kind of like, I guess, semi-pro back in those days. I was pretty decent. And then I was introduced to like the community hardcore with like Adam and Suff, really. We kind of got talking because I was a member on the forums, met Adam, met Suff, and we kind of clicked in terms of our PES love. And I met Gary through there as well. So basically all my kind of real life friends right now have come through PES, which is like, it means a lot, like PES. So yeah, and obviously, as you guys know, and I guess some people might know, probably listening or watching, I worked at Konami on PES for 3 years as well, in terms of social, online, and community as well. So I'm sure we'll touch on that later as well. But yeah, PES has been. I know people in the community say, "Oh, he's been a FIFA guy though." PES, like you guys know over here, PES has been my like kind of like life growing up. I've come. Like we've got together stuff. Gary played PES together at Adam sometimes. Sonny, I've been to your house. We played PES as well. So yeah, it will always hold a special place in my heart, shall we say?
Excellent. Well, I mean, I'm similar to you. I was back on the PlayStation 1 games, but I just want to mention we were so like competitive that when Facebook obviously became a thing, we digitized our old score papers for historical purposes. So when somebody goes, I'm the best at PES, we'll go back to the Facebook page, you know, where all our scores
Yeah, you need to have a record. You need to have a record.
That's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? And that's how competitive we were. But Suf, what about yourself? I mean, if I remember correctly, the last time I listened to you talking about PES, I'm pretty sure it was the episode about magic boots, that infamous episode about boots and stat increases and things like that. I remember that episode clearly, you know, but how did you get into the franchise?
It's been a while. But yeah, my story similar to Asim's, really a lot of parallels there. My first experience, well, it was before it was PES. It was Super Nintendo days, when the first ISS came out. And I remember at the time I had a Mega Drive, and I bought a Super Nintendo to play ISS. That was the reason why I bought the console. And then obviously that continued with the PlayStation. I have to be honest and say that the majority, I spent most of my time playing Winning 11 over PES, over the European version. But everything from Winning 11, first version, dabbled a little bit with the J League games as well. Throughout my teenage years, into similar to Asim, into university. I remember funny events, sort of going over to my mate's house during my uni days and getting involved in a PES tournament, and then sort of missing a date with a girl, and then getting verbally abused on the phone because I missed the date, and and all this kind of stuff. So PES like Asim took over my life in a way, and then we did a little thing. I sort of connected with Adam Bati over in the forums. We set up Winning 11 blog, and then I got to meet amazing people like Asim and Gary, and the list is endless, really. But yeah, we set up the podcast, started doing some video content, expanded our horizons, started flirting with the enemy in FIFA, and but PES was always, it's always center stage, right? And like Asim said, like it's not just the game itself and your love for the game, but the impact it has on your life, I think, is something that you can't deny. And all of my closest friends are either people that I've met through PES or people that I became friends with because we played PES as kids or as teenagers, which is fascinating to kind of think about. But yeah, it's probably been a couple of years since I was last on a podcast or something like that. But yeah, glad to be back. Back.
And I'm pretty sure we've all lost friends in PES, not just gained them as well, right? That's how competitive we are in that. But I mean, Gary, what about yourself? I mean, you've been in the PES community for such a long time as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so it's very similar to Asim and stuff, basically, and yourself. I started off on ISS on the SNES. You can probably, I don't know if you can see that over my shoulder. So they're my games from when I was a kid.
Wow.
And being a kid in football, you want a football game, and like I thought, yeah, this looks decent. So I got involved with that, then moved over to the PS1, and then obviously PS2 days were like the sort of pinnacle of the series. And I just sort of got so engrossed in it from just playing with friends, and then obviously got involved with WMB with Suff and Adam. Went to Adam's place to play the latest versions of PES. Also PES fan as well. That's another sort of old sort of throwback.
Wow, proper throwback, that one. PES fan.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So yeah, it just sort of took over my life, and those were the days when obviously you would buy like PES or Winning 11 and play for the whole year.
Yeah.
And then wait until the new version, and it was exciting to get see the new updates. And so yeah, those are sort of that's sort of a brief synopsis of my sort of time with PES. Obviously, I've met Asim, Suff, you through PES, Adam. There's so many, Nico. There's so many people that I've met just from playing a game, which is crazy if you think about it, but amazing at the same time. So it's not, like Suff said, it's not just a game. It's the fact that it brought people together, which is amazing and sad at the same time, because the sad part is that is no longer going to be a thing, which we will talk about in due course, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting. You said, one thing that we've all got in the same similarities is people talk about how games like Destiny and Fortnite and League of Legends and that bring communities and people together. PES was doing it, you know, back in the day, a long time ago. It just wasn't online. It was just via meetups and memory cards, you know, and that's it. But as you mentioned, we do have a lot to talk about. You know, we're going to talk about the trailer, the roadmap, our opinions. We've got letters from listeners to kickstart it with. But I mean, before we get into the meat of it, which is obviously that trailer to start with, Asim, where were you when it dropped? When it just dropped out of nowhere, where were you?
I had started working. I started my work day, and it just dropped out of nowhere, right? There was no like lead up to it, like no like hype or no like, hey, it's dropping at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever. It just dropped, which is kind of typical, I guess. I think actually the first person to send it across to me was you. And then I loaded it up on my PC and had a look at it, and
we'll save that.
I'm sure we'll get on. I'm sure we'll go on to that. Yeah.
Gary, where were you?
So I was just relaxing in the morning, just doing shit, and like just literally sort of got out of the shower, and then I see you dropped it in our like WhatsApp chat, and I was like, blimey, that like I didn't expect it that early. I was expecting like sort of early afternoon, and then watched it, and then
So were you just surprised out of the blue that it came, or were you scribing on social media when it came?
You know,
that pause there was
that delay was amazing.
That pregnant pause said it all, right?
I just don't even know what to say. I was funny enough, I saw the message from you, Sonny. And I was actually on a work call. And then I just saw the message, and
then all of a sudden, I'm having issues with my work call, technical issues.
Exactly. I actually told him, hold on. So I muted my line. Some guys carry on. I put it on my second screen. And a lot to be said.
Definitely. Well, I mean, get straight into it. Asim, the big line, recreate the perfect football environment from grass, players' movement, crowds, revamped animation, and game controls. That was the big first statement in the reveal trailer. So obviously just watching the trailer and digesting it, I'm pretty sure you've probably watched it 1 or 2 times. How does that statement hold to what you visually saw?
From a visual point of view, if that's what you're asking me, from a visual point of view, comparing it to the teaser they dropped back when obviously the season update was coming out, or before then, they set the stage then. Comparing it to that, was left underwhelmed, shall we say? I think that's probably the word to use. It didn't feel like, it's harsh to say. It's harsh to say, like, they've had a couple of years to work on it, maybe more. You don't know, or maybe less. I don't know. Again, but if that is around 2 years of work to like build up a next gen game, visually, what we saw in the trailer is a bit disappointing. I mean, you see other games on the market, next gen wise, whether it be sports games or whether it be, whatever games, they're raising the bar in terms of what you expect visually from a next gen game. And this was disappointing visually, shall I say. And in terms of like the gameplay stuff, it's hard to tell watching a trailer, but it seemed like a lot of similar stuff. Didn't seem, I mean, they have to have a focus on, they said one-on-ones, which I guess goes in line with like the eFootball, esports. Esports is like is kind of focused more on the one-on-one battles rather than the 11v11. It's more focused on that. So that kind of, I guess, falls in line with the direction they're going in with this. But one word to describe, I guess, to answer your question, would be underwhelming and disappointing as a fan. You're on mute, Sonny.
I'm talking while I'm muted, right? So obviously you said, your pregnant pause kind of spoke 1,000 words, but I mean, obviously they made big, powerful, bold statements on the wildlife documentary voiceover that we had, you know, Asim's reaction to that voiceover, right? I mean, there's no enthusiasm in that voice whatsoever, you know. But I mean, what was your thoughts? Because that was a huge statement that they're talking about, you know, we wanted to reinvent PES. We've done it so much, we've broken a barrier that we're leaving PES behind. Here is eFootball. That was the big thing. Did you see that progression in that short trailer? You know, because as you know, first impressions are everything, you know, and in a way, technically it's the second impression after the Messi teaser, but from the big standpoint, this was your moment to shine. How did it land with you?
I'll walk you through my thoughts as I was going through it, and just watching the trailer. A couple of things sort of that I thought about as I was loading it up, things that stood out in my mind. Firstly, 1 year hiatus in the sense that last year's version wasn't a full version. Secondly, precedent historically since the end of the PS2 era, going into the PS3 era, that carried on into the PS4 era as well, of there's no other way to put it, but basically poor life cycle management, from a sense that you know what a console's life cycle is, and you know when how often new consoles come to market, and it gives you an opportunity to prepare yourself and prepare your brand for new hardware, essentially. They missed the boat with PS3. They missed the boat with PS4. And the Americans say 3 strikes, you're out. So there was no room for error, essentially. So when I put it on, there was just a lot of vibes of, you know, even from the beginning, the kind of the approach from a marketing perspective of that voice, the video with Messi, the color scheme, something just didn't feel right.
God, that color scheme.
Oh, that color scheme.
It's like the neon and I don't know what. And immediately I just thought to myself, okay, you're not understanding your audience, and the evolution of your audience over time, right? So for me, I carried on watching the trailer, and by the time I was finished, I felt pretty overwhelmed. And to be honest with you, it was just a sense of disappointment, because I thought to myself, we've been down this road before, and these mistakes have been made, where it's almost like you missed the boat and then you're playing catch up throughout the generation. And you know, 6 or 7 releases over the life of a console generation, you're constantly playing catch up. So I was hoping for, given particularly the precedent that was set with that Messi reveal a year ago, that set a pretty high benchmark. But I was struggling to see similarities between what they had defined as potential work in progress render of what the game might look like versus what we saw in the trailer. So it was underwhelming, and I felt that for a reveal that has been highly anticipated, a lot of people waiting, a fan base is thirsty, wasn't exactly what I thought it would be.
I mean, Gary, Suff put a good point there. You know, the risk. Yes, you can release eFootball, but then appease the audience by giving you a teaser trailer, which was that Messi render last year. But the dangerous precedent of that is it sets expectations high. It lets imaginations go wild. It lets us start to dream about that next generation of, you know, a Pro Evo game on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. You've obviously gone through that. You saw that render last year. You've built up what it could potentially be throughout the year. So you've sat down and you've watched this 6.5, 7-minute trailer. What was your initial thoughts?
Messy. No, that wasn't a pun, by the way. Messy.
I love it.
It was just, like the whole voiceover thing for starters was dreadful. I didn't know if I was watching like a Amazon Prime like sports documentary or
all or nothing.
So that yeah, exactly. That was a bit weird. And then you've mentioned the color scheme, which was just weird. But I don't know. There's something about it. There was parts of it that looked nice, like from visual standpoint, like the stadium sort of side of it. But then when it showed like the gameplay in motion, that looked very last gen. And you could see like skating and just sort of issues with clipping through like the grass and through the ball. And it just, I don't know, like part of me gets why they're going free to play. It sort of, I can understand why they're doing that, but the trouble is the messaging has got to be on point. Like at this point, we know that it's free to play with, what is it, 7 teams, right? Something like that. And that's all we know, really. We don't know when Master League's coming. We don't know when other parts of it are coming. We just don't know much at all. And even like the roadmap stuff at the end, if you look at it, they haven't even named the modes, which to me says
TBC
like,
is the greatest name I've ever heard. What are you on about? TBC, TBC.
It's just like I know we're not comparing, but you would never get EA doing that with FIFA, like having a mode that's not named. To me, that just screams like, shit, we need to get this out here quick. Everything about it just seemed like off. So
would you prefer if they just didn't even have TBC there, or didn't even include it there, just left it as a surprise for later?
Yeah, I think that would have been better myself. And the whole sort of messy sort of teaser trailer and then this, it seems like 2 different games, because the messy teaser looked phenomenal, but let's be honest, PES have done this in the past with.
You have to remember that with that teaser trailer, he was on $1 million a week. He's had a 50% pay cut. He's got 50% visual degradation, right? That's what you get.
Fair shout. But yeah, like.
Go on, Gary.
No, I was just going to say, PES have done this. Konami have done this in the past with teasers that don't look anything like the final game, so you sort of half expect it. But yeah, I don't know.
I think speaking as a just to add to what Suff and Gary said, speaking as a consumer, and also putting my marketing professional hat on, the road to this has not been great either. Like, you've got the teaser. Okay, fine, that's a teaser. You're setting expectations.
This is what I was waiting for after.
Sorry, Sonny's got his popcorn. No, I'm just gonna speak as a fan. I'm gonna speak as someone who works in marketing, right? So just lay it out. So the teaser's fine. Okay, you're setting expectations. You're saying like, we're having a season update, but this is a glimpse at the future. That's fine. Okay, that's fair. And then the next point, the first touch point for the new game was this new football game performance test. And your first touch point with consumers needs to be on point. That's the first impression. Like, you know, that it wasn't a closed beta, so that it went out to everyone. Everyone could download it and play it, and that's your first impression of the game. And even the comms around that and the messaging around that was just so off. Like, to word Gary used, it was just so off. It was like they didn't believe in it, or they didn't want to push it. Almost, it was just like they were scared to like talk about it. I mean, a better way, and I think we've discussed it, a better way of going about it might have been, you know, okay, we if you want to do a closed beta or like test, is, you know, do what FIFA do. They do a closed beta under NDA. It goes out to a select number of people. They get to test out certain modes, certain functionalities, and they get the data they need. Going out to the wider public with something like this is always going to set impressions from the off. It's the first touch point with something, and then you lead up to this, and it's like there was no hype. Like, they put the date on the ad boards in performance tests. They didn't even talk about the date properly until like a week or so later, or they didn't acknowledge the test existed.
There's no build up.
Yeah, and again, as a fan, as someone who wants to get excited about the next game, and also then putting my marketing hat on, it's like it's almost like suicide, you know. Like,
I have a question, Captain. I have a question.
Go on.
Do you feel that this might just be that we just have to accept that this is a cultural difference in how to market and how to approach? Or I mean, one could argue you need to know your fan base, you need to know your audience, you need to understand the rules of engagement, right? Yeah. But I'm just curious, is it just cultural differences just being too much of a mountain to climb or hurdle to overcome?
I mean, having some inside experience, I think so. Yes. And again, I don't want to like shame anyone or anything like that. I've got friends and former colleagues that I respect over there, but I think so. I think it's a boundary where they don't understand maybe the current the market's been like this. Like, you need to engage with your fans, your community base, like the guys who have kept the series going and been vocal about feedback and changes, etc. To just put that test out there like that, and then go into this with no build up, like you saw FIFA's. Again, it's I don't want to compare, but you have to look across the other side and see, like, FIFA, like, building up to their hyper motion stuff. They had a count that they had, like, daily, not almost a daily post, they had regular posts, like, kind of hyping it up, leading up to it. You knew exactly what time, I think it was yesterday, right, from when we're recording this.
Yeah.
You know exactly what time everything was going out, and it was clear and concise in the messaging. Whereas we didn't, like Sonny, you asked the question, like, where were you when it dropped? Like,
yeah, you shouldn't be asking that question.
You shouldn't really need to know that. Like, you should have a time. Like,
yeah.
You should, like, 10 a.m. whatever. Just give people a time. And I know sometimes working in the industry, there are times when assets, like, go through approval and they drop, like, really late. Sometimes you might get them like 5-10 minutes before the actual go time, but that's fine. Like, if you clear and open with your consumers, your fan base, say, like, it's going out at 9 a.m. and if internally you get the trailer at like 5 minutes to 9, okay, you say you might want to put a message saying, okay, trailer slightly delayed, we're going to put it out at this time. It gives you that breathing room, like, no one knew. Like, I saw people on Twitter, like, asking, like, when's it dropping? It's just the whole lead up to it, I think, has been it's been off. It's just been like, it's kind of like no one's read the room, so to speak, and, like, understood, like, what's been going on.
And then obviously, just on your guys' thoughts, obviously their EA Play is tomorrow, and what they've done is they've looked at different genres that they have in their portfolio, the smaller games, shooters. Madden had its completely own deep dive. FIFA had its own deep dive and things like that. And you think, when you compare, I mean, even if you look at a Sony State of Play, when they just base it on one game and it's 15 minutes long and it's just that one game, or other companies or Nintendo, they'll do direct just for one game. Is this a big opportunity missed where Konami could have sat there and thought, right, you know what? Let's do a 15-minute I mean, Capcom had one of the worst presentations, the second one for Resident Evil Village. That was the worst thing I've ever, it was practically just for the additions, but it was one of the worst things I've ever sat through. And I was just like, oh my God, that was not needed. But how would you have done it, Asim? Obviously, you mentioned it, so we're going to put your consumer/marketing hat back on both of them, right? How would you like to have seen it? Because let's be honest, in the community of Pro Evolution Soccer, eFootball, ISS Winning 11, no matter what they would have done, they would have won in some people's eyes, they would have lost in some people's eyes.
Of course.
How would you have pitched it differently for people?
Yeah. I mean, you can't please everyone, so you're 100% right there. But I think there's a way of being clear and open and concise with your messaging, right? I think even if you're just talking about the reveal, I think what they could have done, maybe they could have got, and I don't want to just mention his name on a whim here, but maybe you should have got Adam in front of a camera, or someone from the dev team in front of a camera, just like, again, kind of like EA did with FIFA yesterday, and let's, like, talk through the vision, what it means going free to play, talking about why they're going free to play, explain, like, the decisions. Like, we kind of got bits and pieces through, like, IGN and maybe some of the website. It was just very fractured messaging. Just, you should have one single source of truth in terms of an asset that told you exactly what you need to know, why it's free to play, when are the modes coming, talk through the roadmap a bit as well, any sort of game features that you that you might want to highlight, and kind of lay it out and add a human touch to it, so someone out there speaking about it. That's probably the way I would have gone about it, or even something as simple as a blog, where it's an FAQ blog, just putting, that answers all the fan of community questions. And even before then, what they could have done to bring some of the community on side is maybe, speak to, like, the likes of PES Universe or similar sites in around Europe or South America, etc. There's so many good, PES community sites out there. Maybe get them under NDA, kind of speak to them, like, explain the vision to them, like, what's happening going forward, get them on side, and then almost use them as the tool to also kind of dissipate information across as well. So everyone's on the same page, like the communities across global are kind of like on the same page. Everyone kind of understands what's happening. There's different ways in my head that I was thinking about. I was like, maybe could have gone down. And the trailer didn't need to be, it was like, again, 6 minutes or so long. Should have been, the trailer should have been just one asset, like one short, concise, like couple of minutes asset, showing off some, some gameplay. They didn't need the stuff with Messi in there. I don't think they didn't need the stuff with Iniesta there, or PK. Should have shown gameplay, and then the rest of the stuff kind of attached to that, the roadmap stuff, they should have done like maybe, as I said, a video Q&A with Adam or someone from the dev team, or release like a separate blog where they could have answered all the questions.
Gary, you're very entwined in the industry. You see a lot of things that are going on. Would this have been better as an IGN first, or a partnering up with Eurogamer or GameSpot? You know, a lot of companies now, they've tried their individual digital shows. It hasn't got the viewership. It hasn't got the reach that they wanted it to. So they are going to the likes of GameSpot and IGN now and are doing these like joint ventures with them. Do you think, you know, and IGN are really, really historically, you know, accepting of PES because it gets them traffic. You know what I mean? PES is a big thing for them. Do you think that it would have been better as an IGN first? Would you have liked to have seen it like that? Having Adam potentially or somebody else from Konami there with IGN and a host asking those questions, because IGN will obviously get questions from the community, which could have been things about Master League or about the roadmap features and stuff, which Adam could have answered. How do you envision it if it was partnered with somebody else?
So if you'd have asked me this like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said no. I would have said yes for views, but for like the hardcore sort of PES community, no, because I'm pretty sure that I could be completely wrong, but I wouldn't have thought the hardcore PES sort of community would go to IGN first. No pun again. But nowadays, like with do we have to call it eFootball? Fuck me. So
call it PES, mate. Call it PES.
Okay. So now with PES, I think that they've changed. Like the hardcore, I don't think is a priority now. I think they know that. They want the more sort of casual, sort of not hardcore sort of PES players, going by what they've shown. So potentially, yes, IGN would be a good spot now, because obviously you're going to get like ridiculous views if it's an IGN first. But they've got their own YouTube channel, so they could just potentially just do something on there, like a live stream or whatever, or could have. So I don't think it's necessarily a sort of issue where they should have gone there rather than there. But I just think the way they sort of marketed everything and released everything, I just think it was a bit disjointed. That is the biggest issue. So yeah, I don't think that having an IGN first is a necessity. But yeah, because their sort of values have changed towards the franchise, potentially, because obviously, yeah, IGN, you're going to get like ridiculous numbers if it's an IGN first. So yeah.
So if interesting for you, what would have wowed you then? So obviously, as you said, you know, it's been a while, you've kept your eye on there, but what would have made you go, okay, wow? Obviously, keeping in mind all the changes, the brand change, the direction, this is it, no more yearly games. What would have wowed you in a realistic standpoint that Konami could have pulled off?
I think I have to look at Konami as an organization. And you mentioned realistic, what Konami could have pulled off. I think PES has been a cash cow for Konami for a long time. There's no other way to put it. It generates consistent revenue. Even with sales declining since the peak of the PS2 era, it's definitely still a cash cow for the organization. I think what I would have liked to have seen from them is some sort of a competitive effort, because my worry for a long time has been that we end up in a monopoly when it comes to football games. And we seem to be heading in that direction, and it's been the case for a while now. We need more. Look, competition breeds excellence, right? And if we don't have competition, as football fans and as gamers, we are going to suffer. Ultimately, we're going to end up in a situation where it's very limited competition. It's a monopoly, and you know what game you're getting every year, and that company might just start to rest on its laurels and take it easy. What I wanted to see from Konami was an investment in a sense of a clear cultural shift in the way that they were approaching things, which would have addressed a lot of the marketing problems that Asim and Gary were talking about. Whether that would have been changing the way they did things from a marketing perspective. As soon as I saw Iniesta and PK and Messi showing up, I thought, okay, well, you're just milking that Barcelona partnership that you've had for God knows for like a decade or something. It's old news. It doesn't excite me. And on top of that, you even make a statement in the trailer saying we're fortunate to have Iniesta in Japan. So you're saying to me that if Iniesta wasn't in Japan, PES would just pop, right? like it's not something that you say. Clearly, the script hasn't been reviewed.
If Iniesta wasn't in Japan, it would have been we're fortunate to have Oscar close by, you know, or something like that, right? He's in China, he could come over here, but you know, either way, it's going to be someone. But I mean, how would you have been? I would have thought if it's a new generation, a new beginning, get the young players in. You know what I mean? It would have been, you know, how proud I would have been personally if I saw Rashford in one of those suits in the trailer. I'd have been like, oh my god, you actually went out and you got Marcus Rashford. Like, you've already got him. Use it. You know, I'd have been more impressed.
Yeah. Also like Pedri as well. Yeah.
Yeah, or Pedri, right? And I think what one thing that I saw in a completely different industry, I was watching a reveal for a car that Audi had, and they brought in the lead actor for one of these Netflix shows, Bridgerton or whatever, young, charming, race guy, to bring in the car. I'm sitting there thinking, what are you doing? He's not a car enthusiast. He doesn't understand, like, you know, he's an actor, right? And I get it. He's a brand ambassador. I completely get that. But for me, when you have football players as cover stars, that's what they are. They're cover stars, and you're leveraging their skill set to help you with animations or in-game aspects, right? But if I want to convince the majority, I would find people. I would have my trailer, anything to do with professional players, strictly limited to like motion capture, them wearing the suits, like you guys said. I would limit it to that. But then when it comes to them talking, when it comes to someone describing the brand, you need people that are actually making the game, that are sitting behind the scenes, need to be front and center, because they're the ones who made it. They're the ones who can speak about it most fluently. And EA have the formula nailed, right? They got 4 guys. The global community manager.
It was so good. It was so good. It was so well done.
The lead programmer, an ex-footballer who's now a game developer, right?
Yeah, that was super.
And then the funny thing is, those guys have been part of that dev team from the days that we used to go over to Vancouver to play the betas. So Kancho and those guys have been with EA for decades, and they're essentially positioned as the face of the game. Like, Mbappe's on the cover, but at least, but you're not going to get Mbappe to come and start talking about FIFA, because he's not a game developer.
True.
You know, he doesn't know how to position. He doesn't know how to position the product. So that, for me, I would have liked to have seen. So an investment in taking a different approach. And then, I mean, the fundamental here is just at least an investment in the product to show a significant evolution, which for me, unfortunately, I don't know. This is just the first trailer. Who knows? PES might be, you know, they may have been showing us footage that was cross-platform or from a cross-platform. I don't know what it is, right? But there might be more room for improvement on the visuals and things like that. But I don't know, what you've just shown me just hasn't filled me with confidence. And it begs the question, when there's so many similarities, like Gary alluded to the previous gen, and you're still seeing animations that are borderline PS2 era, PS3 era, and it's still there, then I'm thinking, okay, then you've dropped the ball here. The final thing for me is the direction they're going in. Suggests to me that they are reevaluating the business model of the game, right? So they are essentially saying, okay, you know what? We've seen Warzone. That was a hit, right? Fortnite, that was a hit, right? And they're making money. They're making bank. So how do we get a piece of the pie that way? Should we make it free to play so that more people engage with the game, more people download it, and then we just slowly pull them in? I get it. I totally get it. But at the same time, you need to piggyback off those loyal fans who've been there forever.
Exactly.
And the minute you do this,
exactly that.
the minute you do this, you've alienated them. So then you're basically back to, you've lost a proportion of those fans, and you're going to be relying on fresh meat, fresh players. And so you need a segue. You need something to link going from a fully fledged product that you pay 40, 50, 60 quid for a year to then moving to this model where you're developing an online ecosystem and you're trying to build a brand that people buy into, and they have their credit cards on the system. You need something to link the two. I just don't think there was that link. It was all of a sudden, it was almost like they were using the switch to eFootball to validate that switch. But it's just too much of a change. So I would have liked to have seen that kind of a change in the game and the visuals versus in the investment that they've made in building this ecosystem around a football game. Because that could have been a slower evolution, evolving from a full product into a free-to-play model. That could have been an evolution that you did over time, and it could have happened, 3-4 years into this generation. And just you could have used those funds to wow everyone up front as you launch in next gen, and then build up that momentum. And then as that momentum is built up, you then shift to a different model. That's how I would have approached it.
Gary, did you, and Asim, you can jump in here, just basically piggybacking off what Suf said, going from the hardcore audience, let's be honest, with PES these days, the pendulum is hardcore PES mobile, hardcore PES mobile. Did you get that this is catered to PES mobile on that pendulum swing with what you saw today?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Just the way it was presented. Yeah, just I don't know where to start with it.
I'm triggering Gary today. That's all I'm doing. I'm just triggering Gary. That's it, over and over.
It's because I'm so I was expecting to be blown away by this. It's been 2 years, right? Like, if that was any other company, 2-year gap, you'd be like, fuck. But with this, yeah. But yeah, answer to your question, that is more focused on the casual / mobile. And can I just talk about this? Like the whole crossplay thing. How are they going to do mobile to console?
I think that's why it's in the winter. They don't know yet. They just put it in the roadmap, but they don't know.
Like that whole, yeah.
Shit, I'm losing the game. I'm going to run outside to 3G connection so it goes off. Yes, yeah. Oh, I didn't quit the game. The connection went.
There's gonna be so many issues with that, because obviously on mobile you can't have as many buttons. There's tactical stuff you probably can't use.
Well,
so
they have said
means the console version.
They have stated that you cannot play cross-play without a controller on mobile. So you have to have a controller with the mobile version of the game. So I think that is the ultimate goal for them. The ultimate aim is to have that PES mobile crowd playing, obviously with the people who play on console, but there's a lot of things for that to work. It took Bungie, who are experts at the multiplayer, it took them years to get Destiny going across platforms seamlessly, so it'll be really interesting to see where they go on that one. But Asim, you were nodding your head when I mentioned PES mobile.
Yeah, I mean,
you saw the growth of it while you were there, right? And
yeah, I mean, PES Mobile it's no secret. You can see by their financial records, etc., that they released. PES Mobile is doing great business, especially in Asia. It started to do better in Europe as well. So it's not just touching on what Stuff said. It's not the shift to free to play that I don't think is the issue. It's the suddenness of it, and without any sort of kind of clear communication or just easing into that. I think that's the issue for the hot, because it's you've had a really core base of fans around the world that have been keeping the game going, so to speak. Whether it be, I mean, let's be honest, probably mainly through my club, and then you're making this shift with just a sudden switch almost. you need to ease into that. You need to have, again, that clear and transparent communication. Again, it could have been someone in front of a camera, Adam, or someone from the dev team, someone from the PR com side, just, you know, sitting in front of the camera and just talking about, like, you don't even need to announce the game at that stage. You just go and say, look, this is the direction we're looking to go in. You'll hear more about it in due course. And that sets the expectation for what's coming up with the reveal. So fans are like, okay, we know it's going to go to this direction. We'll look forward to see what they reveal. And going back to your kind of main question there, like, you know, mobile this side, hardcore this side. I think obviously, as we've all kind of touched upon, it seems like there is a shift to that mobile crowd, that free-to-play crowd, and that's fine, and that's absolutely fine. It's I think they obviously want to get the user base up. They're not relying on sales anymore. They want to focus on, I guess, in the business, what we call DAU, daily active users, and get them spending. But you know, given the history, and this is ever since I've been playing PES Online, they've had some good forays into online. Like some years it's good, you know, but generally, in like today's standard, the online has not been up to scratch. Let's be honest. So to bring it all of a sudden into this space now, where you're a cross-play, and it is of course now an online focused game. Obviously, they said they're going to release some modes later on, whether it be Master League or whatever. But its now focus is online. So your online infrastructure now needs to be on point, because you are going to get an influx of players, probably double, triple, quadruple, 10 times maybe, players coming in all at one time because it's free to play, and you're going to have to deal with that. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with it with crossplay from the consoles. At some point, you're going to have to deal with it crossplay with mobile as well. That inherently brings with it a lot of challenges. So I'm interested to see how that works, and also concerned as a fan to see how that works. And then in general, like on the other side, content. Games like Fortnite, games like Warzone. I play Warzone regularly, and what keeps me interested in it is obviously playing with friends, but the content updates. There's regular content updates, whether it be skins, guns, themed maps, whatever. There's regular content updates keep you going. Fortnite is probably the best example of it. They not only have the online infrastructure, they have the content with it. Their drops of content are now like big, like not only gaming reveals, like lifestyle reveals. It's not a gaming thing anymore. It's a cultural thing.
It's like an event.
It's like a big global event. They showed off the Star Wars trailer in that, or that clip in that. I remember when the last movie was coming out.
All the games you mentioned there, the one thing they all have in common is 2, 3, 4 weeks in Destiny's case. They tell you what's going to come in the next update. They tell you in detail. Then they tell, oh, here's actually a list of issues that have actually come up, and this is what we're going to work on. We're going to get it out. It's all in that communication. So the people who are playing are like, oh, you've broken it, but you've told me you're going to fix it. So I'll continue.
There's regular communication. There's regular communication from Bungie now, obviously, because they're looking after Activision, after Destiny, after Activision kind of left. But even with Fortnite, they regularly communicate with their player base around changes. If there's an issue, they are on it. If there's an issue in Warzone, okay, sometimes it doesn't get fixed as quickly as possible, but they are on it. They will put messaging out there. They're on it. But yeah, going back to the content side, it's just they'll need to have and I don't know if they have it already. They'll need to have a live service team. Like I'm pretty sure from the days that we used to go to EA stuff, and Gary, remember, like they have a dedicated live service team looking after that side of things, looking after FUT, and that's why FUT has so many like regular like themed events going on. So they will need to make sure, because they obviously have a battle pass. So once that's obviously the battle pass is over, you're going to need more influx of content coming in and more reasons for people to play. So I can see the direction is to bring more players in, and they will bring more players in 100%, because it's, you know, free to play. People will, even out of sheer curiosity, like download it and play. I mean, I will. I mean, we probably all will. But it's about how they keep you there. It's about having those DAU numbers and keeping them there, and not only keeping them there, but keeping them spending there. And that's, given the long history, that concerns me, you know, as a fan. But I can see why they're doing it, and you know, I have no issue, absolutely no issue. That it's again, just to summarize, it's the way they've led up to it, and now it's what they're going to have to deliver on, which is going to be interesting and also concerning, given kind of the history and also some insight.
I tell you what's really interesting. You mentioned Warzone. You know, Activision, our billion-dollar business. Call of Duty is, let's be honest, it's the biggest game every single year. Warzone is absolutely huge. It's massive. And what I love was Activision tried to shut down that third-party fan site, which was all about statistics and things like that. Yeah. They realized quickly, oh shit, we can't do that. And they re-engaged with that community and brought it back. Yeah. And they thought, right, this is how we need to do it. This is how we need to make it work. And hopefully, obviously, that's something we see down the line, because there are communities in the PES community that want to make the game better. You know, that's the whole idea for it. But so I want to switch to gameplay, because you know, a big thing for them was there's two things here: incomparable immersion, and then creating the greatest head-to-head experience is their ultimate goal. And that is, they believe that's in the one-on-one, and they're classing that as motion matching, which is obviously a system that has, you know, thousands of new animations and that. What did you think of the, obviously they use Neymar for these segments of the trailer, but your thoughts on, you know, this is reminding me of back in the day buzzwords, you know, of like, okay, it's about the one-on-one. That was FIFA Street to me, you know, that was about one-on-one, you know, and it was very broken and didn't, I was really, when you saw the actual gameplay, like when he took kickoff, I felt like I was watching it at 10 frames per second. I was like, okay, is the ball going to reach the guy before the trailer moves? Yeah. You know, it's just such weird gameplay points. And again, as Asim said, asset availability was probably a big thing for that, everything being signed off so late. But I mean, so the ultimate goal, motion matching, one-on-one, what did you think about what you saw in the trailer? I mean, if that was in real life, when Neymar moved the ball, another defender would have took it off him. He kicked it halfway across the pitch to get away from the guy, but he's deaf. Suff. Typical Arsenal. Look at the screen. He's realized now. I love it. I'm gonna keep that in the video. I have to keep that in the video.
That's amazing.
Typical. I'm gonna be like, look, I don't like to compare, and I don't think it's fair to compare. And I want to avoid that. I think your questions around the gameplay aspects definitely left me underwhelmed, left me asking more questions, because visually what I saw didn't give me any confidence that what they were pitching was actually in there. I watched the EA presentation, and you could see the DNA of the game is still the same, but there were some improvements, and they visually showed those improvements. Like they said, okay, now we've got two touch, chest, knee, or the thigh, and then it comes down, and they show you an example to justify
in a gameplay camera as well, so how you would see it as a player, you know.
Exactly. And for me, when I watched the PES thing, that example you gave of Neymar knocking the ball about 20 yards one way and then going back to get it as kind of like a maneuver, I couldn't help but feel to myself, is this a way of sort of them evolving their game mechanics to allow for a little bit more freedom, a little bit more fluidity, but in a sense, you know, it just becomes almost, you watch it and it just doesn't look realistic for you anymore. For me, it was just, you know, the motion matching. I think that's probably their answer to hypermotion, and how it stitches animations and things like that. And they've got all this motion capture from PK and Iniesta and Messi and others. Again, nothing in the trailer to give me any confidence that that's actually a game-changing feature or something that I can see evolving over time. There just wasn't enough proof in the, you know, they say the proof's in the pudding.
I think the key thing, like marketing term-wise, just to interrupt you there, stuff is what, again, putting my marketing hat on, is like, show, don't just tell, you know. And I don't feel like the trailer, it told me these things, it didn't show me these things. Whereas again, it's hard not to compare. But when EA were talking about things, they showed you exactly what they meant.
I love that defensive line movement. You know, that's something, again, you don't notice in a football game. So the fact that they were showing it, but they were showing it from the gameplay cam, was a big thing for me. You know, I was really, really impressed on that. I mean, Gary, have you got to add on what Suffwan was talking about?
Regarding gameplay, or?
Yeah, the motion matching and what you saw with the animations and things like that. And the very slow
kickoff. The very slow kickoff, that was hilarious. I thought I'd pause the video at one point. But yeah, regarding the gameplay, I think the clips they showed didn't sell it. It was just like a couple of players just sort of going left and right, left and right, left and right. And I was like, okay. And some of, I think I mentioned it right at the start, but there was some like skating and sort of like some of the sort of dodgy like foot planting, if you want to call it that, where like the foot would go through the ball and stuff like that.
If anyone can skate, and there was one in real life, it's Messi.
Yeah, that one clip in the trailer where Neymar's got the ball and he's sort of like doing his thing and then crosses it, and then Messi like puts it in. There's that part there with the skating was like ridiculous. I thought he was going to start like doing like a Torval and Dean at one point. But yeah, I think the gameplay they showed, the clips they put in were bad moves, like bad choices. And the general sort of feeling with this reveal is it got people talking, but for the wrong reasons, which is never a good sign on a sort of a reveal and to sell your product. So, but yeah, regarding like the gameplay and that, I thought it was average, to be honest.
Yeah, I think gameplay wise, from what you said, Sonny, like, you know, the motion matching and all like the one-on-one stuff, it's clear they're going down a esports direction, and again, that's probably linked to the name change as well. There was a part in the trailer where I think it was Messi or what might be Neymar, like they were taking on a defender, and they went one way. The defender was like almost in the crowd. He went the other way.
Neymar in the corner.
He sold him, right, and that's, I think, I mean, fair enough if that's their ethos. You know, they're going after like the one-on-one battles and like skinning your opponent and going in on goal and, you know, creating those wow moments for the esports. If that's their direction, okay, that's cool. And, you know, as Gary mentioned, there was like the skating stuff there. I think that's there, like, to be fair to them, that's there in both games, and it's always been there in both games. And I think it's there. It's very hard to eliminate that, because I think skating to a degree will always need to be in there, because if it's not there, then that motion when you're playing it will feel wrong, because you just, at that point, you want that player to hit that ball, right? So that it's going into that animation. If it doesn't, you'll be like, what the hell? So when you're playing it, you notice it less. I think it's when it's in like those close-up replay type scenarios, you absolutely notice it. But yeah, in general, it seems like in terms of your gameplay question, it seems like they're going after that, creating those wow moments, beating players, and, you know, creating those esports moments. You know, when they do their Euros or whatever they're going to do, like, you know, eFootball League, etc.
Yeah, I want to go back to a point that you made earlier around who they're going after, and you made a point around sort of these models, the free-to-play models and all that. I can see it. I can see an argument, you know, for both the free-to-play, but also there's still an argument to be made for the traditional model that they've used up until last year, because if I think of where the PES strongholds are, and I think we've had this discussion before, they are predominantly markets that are where sort of microtransactions are relatively immature, right? I think of a lot of my friends who play PES and have remained loyal to PES, being in like my motherland in Sudan and places like, and I've got a lot of friends in South America who live in markets where they don't even need it. They don't even have a credit card. There's no need to have a credit card, right?
Yeah.
And even if they did, they probably wouldn't feel comfortable putting it online. So the free-to-play model might appeal or capture a bigger proportion of those markets and allow sort of a lower barrier to entry because you have it on mobile and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, then you're also limiting the exposure that these loyal fans have to modes and features and stuff, because they can't get past that that sort of that payment barrier, because it's not unless they go to a local shop and buy some PSN credit with cash and then come back and load up their system, but then you're adding another layer of complexity. So
yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's just there's a lot of considerations, which is why in my perspective, give those markets a little bit more time to mature, let it evolve over time, right? And you could still have that option, but give people the option to have a fully fledged disc version if they want that, because that's still a need. It's kind of like the PlayStation 5. Like Sony could have been like ruthless and said, fuck that, no disc. Nobody uses a disc in this day and age, but they weren't. They had to give people an option, right? And they had to say, we need to keep a disc in there. It's going to cost you more, but there's an option for a disc. So
yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. It's an absolutely fair point. The biggest markets for PES, as you touched upon, stuff are probably like South America, Middle East as well. Actually, is probably a big market for them. And like, I mean, Europe is usually been a FIFA stronghold. There's certain markets from what I know were growing for PES, and I think they continue to hammer home in terms of growing them. That's why Italy being one, they've got the Juve exclusive license, and they're doing stuff in France as well. UK is definitely a FIFA market. That's gone. That's long gone. It's lost. But I guess maybe with this move, they are trying to go after those people who do have a credit card, and in the European markets, the US as well. Maybe in another example, where they want to get their money. Essentially, it's a business at the end of the day. But yeah, you're right. They should have. That's a fair point. I didn't think about that. And you raise a fair point. Yeah, like because they said it's digital only, right? There's no physical release.
Exactly. That's a big thing. And that's a shame because now it's always nice to go out. Like many people's stories about going out to buy the box, the physical version of the game. But the cover star thing is a big thing. You look at companies like Madden, games like Madden, FIFA, you look at the 2K games as well, they make such a big deal about the cover star, the unveiling of it, and there's so much engagement on that cover reveal. I mean, NBA 2K just had that a few weeks back or last week, and all I could see was just NBA, first woman on the box and things. And you've taken that out of the equation now completely, that fun that both the hardcore and the casuals like to see, because if you got the right cover star, you would get people who don't care about the franchise, Ronaldo's on the cover of PES, and things like that. And then it got people talking about, you've taken that all off the table completely. Yeah. And how do you, is it, we're just going to change the person on the main menu every year now on this digital platform? Is that how you're going to do your new cover
star? Do you think they might not release like a physical version down the line? I think they will. Edition, just to once they put the modes in that they're talking about, because they said they gave a roadmap until the end of the year, right? Essentially, winter. So they might in the new year, just before the end of the quarter, just to buck up some sales and get some extra money from physical copies. They might release a, I guess, game of the year edition, whatever you want to call it, complete edition or something like that. They might call it
director's cut.
Director's cut, yeah.
Let's be honest, it will be called eFootball, the Barcelona Messi edition. You know what I mean? It's going to have some sort of Barcelona thing on there, right?
As long as it doesn't have that like blue and yellow branding all over the.
Mate, that's a guarantee. When I saw those shirts, I was like, they're going to sell those shirts in the
the branding shop. Was very culturally shall we say
misunderstood. Definitely. But I mean, you just mentioned roadmap. Let's talk about that roadmap. Asim, sticking with you. So early autumn, winter. So early autumn, all new game engine rollout. Could have just seen launch, right? That's what they're saying, but they're calling it the all new game engine rollout. Local matches using renowned clubs: FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juve, Manchester United, Flamengo, some other teams as well, the small one from North London. And then, cross-generation matches, which is obviously PS5 versus PS4, Xbox Series X and S versus Xbox One, which tells you straight away that, as you mentioned earlier, the infrastructure is not ready to go cross-platform on that sense. But I mean, obviously, just talking about the roadmap as a whole, how it looked, the information that was on there, you obviously mentioned about the names not being ready and stuff. What was your thoughts on that roadmap?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, my initial thing was it seems like basically the version that's coming out early autumn is like PES Lite, which is what they usually put out. That's PES Lite. Essentially, that's what it is, right? It's with only certain clubs. Obviously, their main partner clubs make sense, and you'll be allowed to play exhibition matches, and there'll probably be some form of. I mean, they're saying autumn for like the team building mode, which is essentially my club, right? It looks like they're going to rename it to something else, but essentially, it's either PES Lite coming out early autumn or just a demo, essentially, maybe. That's what it looks like. And then like autumn was it the online leagues and the team building mode, cross-platform with console and PC? Is that right?
Yeah.
And then their battle pass system as well, which is going to be interesting to see like what type of content, like what that's going to be actually very key to like how this is perceived by not only the new fans coming in, the current players as well, like who you've had like David on your podcast as well. You've had like Barry on your podcast. So I think you've got Wes coming on. These guys play a lot of my club and play a lot of online. So for them, I think and for those type of players, it'll be interesting to see what the match pass system is and how it compares to like similar stuff out there. Because that is key to keeping your players there, like keeping them playing, giving them incentive. Because from the previous iterations, my club content has been a bit thin. In terms
it's
of
just iconic moments. It's just
it's just There's no. Whereas again, it's very hard to not compare. But like FIFA put out, they have squad building challenges. They have like cards updated like every single week, pretty much. They have something to do every single week. They have something to do, something new to do that keeps you playing. So I mean, the roadmap is good. Like on a positive note, it's good that they put a roadmap out there, so at least people know what's coming and what they will have to play early autumn and what they will have to play like later in autumn and winter as well. But I think it was bad form, like kind of not having names for the modes. I mean, I don't know if there's maybe there might be some sort of legal issues around it, or they're still looking to get that like trademarked or before they officially name it. But just putting that in, just again, we go back to comms and messaging and and kind of again putting my marketing out on like putting that out without a name for the mode just seems a bit odd to me personally. But I mean, good that they put the roadmap, but yeah.
Imagine if there was an FAQ and it says, what's the names? Oh, we're going to show you that in a few weeks. That's all you need. Just let us know what's happening.
I mean, even something simple, like, again, this is a popped in my head right now. Okay, if you're putting that out there like that, and you're still thinking about a name or deciding on a name, maybe put it out to the fans, like saying, these are our options. Help us name our new mode. Like, we want your input. Again, that's something that engages the fan, engages the community. It's like, okay, we want your, I mean, they haven't had input before, but okay, at this stage, we want your input. Like, we want to bring you into the picture. Like, you are part of our thinking still. Because all this, like all the from the teaser to now where we are, as a person, who's been involved in the community for so long, and stuff, and Gary as well, and you, Sonny, as well, like, it just seems like it's a distant memory. Like, the community is a distant memory for them. It's like they're kind of focused on, it's good to have your own direction and your own vision. Of course it is. But you have a community there. You have a community there, like, back it up, like, speak to them. They want to help you. They want to help you. And you see
without
so many examples
without that community, like, it wouldn't be where it is today.
Of course. And you've always got to remain in a way like humble to that, and like have some sort of humility to that, and like say, like, we are where we are because of our fans and our community, and like to have them not be part of this journey where you see in the industry now, and it's beyond gaming as well, where fans and community are a big part of, like, shaping the future of franchises and series, etc. Like, fan power brought back stuff like Skate. Fan power brought back stuff like Tony Hawk's. Fan power is going to bring back, hopefully tomorrow, Dead Space as well. So listening to you, exactly, fingers crossed. So fan power is something you can't ignore.
It's going to be Dead Space live service, Dead Space.
Dead Space.
Dead Space.
It's something you can't ignore, and you can't afford to ignore especially when the football is all about community. Like, football as a sport is all about community, and like bringing people together. Like we talked about earlier, like how the game has brought us together. So it seems like that is a distant memory. You know, again, putting my consumer kind of hat on, it seems like a distant memory, and it's sad to see. Hopefully, they, you know, kind of buck up ideas as this roadmap goes forward. But nice that they have the roadmap. But yeah, I'd like to. It would have been nice to see again. This is again a different tangent, more community involvement in kind of
talking of that roadmap image. Did anyone else think it was a bit busy?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Like it sort of didn't get the point across. I think a lot of it was like I see on Twitter, people sort of looking at it and sort of saying like they don't really know what it means, which is not a good sign. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But
you find it crazy that Marvel can do like 20 films on a slide and it look cleaner than that. You know what I mean? But I mean, again, I look at Destiny. They did. I keep going back to Destiny, but they're one of the trendsetters in this area, which obviously eFootball is going into. But when they do their presentations and they were talking about their expansion packs and their plans, they got so much information. It was clean, it was clear, you could see it was segmented into each section, so you knew what was happening. But you don't need Messi in the roadmap. You're just using it as much. It's overload at this point, you know. At least get if you've got Neymar, which you announced the day before, get his dreads in there. You know what I mean? Like do something crazy. But you don't need a football player on your roadmap. You just need the vital information. So when you read that roadmap, were you like, okay, it's good that they've done a roadmap, I kind of can see where they're going with this, or was it like there's not enough information here?
The latter. There's not enough information. It's too confused. And then it begs the question, if that's your roadmap for the rollout, what was your development roadmap like internally? That's the question I ask myself, because if you can't be clear in a rollout roadmap, then what does your development roadmap look like? And at what point in your development roadmap did you decide to wait till the last minute to actually give your modes names? Like those are the questions that I ask myself. Like I have to sit there. And yeah, I know I'm being picky, but it's a question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. Like, you either hold back on revealing the modes and even like mentioning them and just saying this is what we're gonna have on this date. This is what we're gonna have on this date. Keep it short and concise, and then say from Q4 onwards, expect a lot more. Like, and just keep it simple, right? But now they've basically just bunched a lot of different stuff on a single slide and said this is our roadmap, and it's confusing. For lack of a better word, it's confusing. I think for the average sort of gamer, you look at that and you think, I don't know what to make of this. I would have liked a more easier to digest version of it, where you have, okay, this date, this is what we're going to have and this is what it means. This date, this is what we're going to have and this is what it means. And then have it as a simpler, like kind of like three different pillars. You say this date, launch new engine with sort of exhibition games, right? Blah 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 blah. On this date, we're going to add the My Club equivalent or whatever. Blah 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 blah. And this is what you can expect with improvements for My Club. And then say beyond that, to be announced, a plethora of other modes, including offline, whatever. Done. Like then you're making it clear. People know what the next immediate milestones are for the game, and they know that something's coming, but they don't know what that something is. And then you don't look like, oh, you haven't even named your modes, and the slide's busy, and I don't really know what's going on with the product. And yeah, it's
very yellow. I just noticed. I'm just looking at it now. It's very yellow. They could have early autumn could have been different colors to autumn, which could have been different colors to winter. Then it's a lot clearer at this point. But it's everything's yellow titled. The console things are those crazy, EA strips that you get. It's like a paint bomb went off on the slide. But Gary, I want you to get your hypothetical hat on. All right.
Okay.
Let's say it goes the way Konami want it to go. Where is this in 6 months? So let's say the online is working. people are engaging, people are playing, and we're starting to see it. Where can you see it being on a positive side in 6 months? What do you want to see?
Wow.
Besides just a working online football game, which is our base requirement.
If it goes the way that they want it to go and people are engaging with it and sticking with it, then as long as there's new stuff, new content to keep people engaged, I haven't really got an issue with it. My worry is that, because I've already seen it online, that there's so many of the hardcore just don't want to get involved with this. My issue is that it's not even going to get to that positive stage before like the good happens, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think, yeah, if they can somehow make it a positive thing and like the pricing is right. See, that's a big issue for me. Like the pricing has got to be bang on with this. Because potentially, yeah, it's, we don't know.
Modes, right? Yeah.
So like Master League might be say £20, and then my club might be something else. As long as, I don't know. Like I can see it. If they nail it, I will take my hat off and say fair play. Like you've done wonders with it. But my worry is the whole engagement factor. Are people going to stick with it after say 6 months? Because even like if we go back to last year's game or the game before, was that like the old PES games, you had that whole year engagement with it? Is that still is that still part of PES? I don't think it is. Because I know I'm probably a minority, but I used to play it for a couple of months and then just get bored. Whereas the older games I used to play like the whole year, all the time. And I think probably now the only ones that do that are like the streamers of PES.
And even they struggle. So you had like again David Fish on, and you know you've had other streamers. Sunny, like
he's going to be on tomorrow. He's on tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to doing
one of these tomorrow. So
I'm looking forward to doing it because like even the streamers out there, the kind of the big PES streamers, they struggle with like getting content, you know, out of the game for their content that they're putting out on Twitch or YouTube, etc. So yeah, it's just on the back of Gary. Yeah, I think if it goes right, fair play to them. I think you know, I kind of said on Twitter earlier, I kind of just put my one piece out there. I was like, it seems like the direction is not for me, and that's fine. You know, I'm happy to kind of move on and play other games. That's completely fine. But you know, if gameplay has always been at the core of PES for me, so like if the gameplay can keep me engaged and playing, whether it's offline or online against friends, I will play it. But I think in this day and age, you also need, as we mentioned a few times, content. Content is king at the end of the day. You need content to keep you coming back in and playing. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of work that out. I mean, I mentioned a live service team earlier. Any game like this now, like Fortnite, Warzone, FIFA with Ultimate Team, anything like this has a live service team dedicated to making sure there is regular content out there for people to engage with. That is going to be, I think this approach now will live or die on the content and the online infrastructure. Simple as that.
Before we move on to some questions from the listeners, I've got a question for you, Suf. So over the years, the mantra has been about gameplay. Gameplay is king. The pitches hours is a big thing. Moving into this new direction, is content king? Gameplay, content. What becomes king for this game to succeed? Because yes, you know, when you go out and you spend £50 on a game, you take the game home, you are playing that for a year. Gameplay is fundamental. That's the key. That's your base. But for a game like this, we've seen, you know, free-to-play games come out, have tight gameplay, and they're gone within a couple of months because people are just like, we don't care. There's nothing to do, you know. So what becomes king for eFootball? Is it gameplay? Is it content?
I'll answer that with a question, because it's a question I've been asking myself. Why is it that Activision launched Warzone and a full version of Call of Duty? That's the question I've been asking myself. Because the full version is ultimately the gameplay is king, whole experience, full-blown package, blowing the hardware to its limit, right? And that's what hardcore gamers who go out and spend, how much is a PS5 these days? 800 quid? No one's paying market price, right? So if I'm paying that much, then I want something that's really making the fans on my PS5 sound like my PS4. But then that begs the question: why have Activision not done that and said, oh, we're just gonna focus on Warzone, right? And update it yearly, free to play. Let's just go with that. Put all our eggs in one basket. I have to say, it's a very good question, and for me, you have then. Before you were focusing on gameplay and you had all the other elements around graphics, the sort of animations, all that kind of stuff, that'll fit into that puzzle. But now you're adding a complexity, which is content and a focus on content. And from an employee perspective, how many employees do you need to then start generating that content? If already you were investing a lot and you're in second place. Now you add another complexity around content. And you say, okay, now I need to produce all this content to keep people tied into the brand. So then, are you going to shift your resources and all your employees, your full-time employees' attention, and from the gameplay aspects to then the content aspect? It's a good question. I really don't know which way they go. I think time will tell. But I think content will need more of a focus. Content in the sense of modes, kind of all the other stuff that goes with kind of the my club or whatever they decide to call it. The frequency of updates that you need to provide for a game that basically lives and breathes online, and is digitally distributed. That there's an expectation there that you be able to provide more frequent updates, because there isn't that limitation there. So there's a lot to ask, and there's a lot to sort of figure out, and I would love to know how they're gonna split their resources to tackle that. My feeling is definitely the needle will shift towards content a little bit, and being able to provide that more consistently.
Gary, I remember quite a while ago you used to play GTA Online, and let's be honest, the GTA gameplay is very, very interesting. It's a bit all over the place, but that's what gives it its charm. It's fun to play. But the big thing for them is the content drops. People always talked about, is GTA 5 going to get single player DLC? What they don't realize is that story DLC is in GTA Online. That is how they're doing it, So, I mean, is that how PES is going to have to do it? Is it going to be, oh, we've released the game, now we've got months and months to redefine that gameplay for next year's iteration, but now it's like we need to gameplay tweak, we need to create content, we need to plan content, we need to release content, oh, another gameplay tweak, whereas companies like, GTA, they've got, was it, Rockstar have over like 750 people working on GTA Online alone, and then you got COD, which has like 4 different development studios, and these are just support teams that are working with Warzone, not the main campaigns and stuff. Can you see Konami pulling this off? It's a big ask, isn't it? Because it's a huge change. Everything changes.
Yeah, see, that's one of the issues they've potentially got. Obviously, Rockstar, Activision, they're huge. Obviously, Konami, that they're not in the same sort of bracket of like revenue and all that, and size of teams. It's going to be tricky, because obviously, like Asim sort of mentioned, they're going to have like a separate team just for this alone, surely. Maybe they've already done that, we just don't know about, but they have to keep it fresh. They have to keep it people wanting to come back for more. So they have to have a sort of at least some sort of dedicated team to do that. But yeah, in terms of like GTA sort of numbers and stuff like that, then yeah, obviously that's never going to be a thing, because Konami is sort of a lot smaller when you compare it to them. But yeah, to be honest, this is so new to us as well that it just, yeah, like we're not.
I want to touch
sort
on
of
one point that you made, though. I want to touch on the one point you made quickly before we move on. You mentioned, you know, that live service part, and again, that should have been, or possibly could have been communicated. Like, again, just to ease community nerves, it's like, we have got a separate team working on this. You don't need to worry. We've got you with content. Maybe it's further down the line they're going to do that, but again, easing the nerves, you know, so we say, of the community, just saying, like, we have this under control. We have a separate team that's looking after content for this, you know, that's going to look after the match pass system and any sort of themed content that comes into it. I think with that content stuff, I think they're going to tap into a lot of their partner clubs. You know, going by the history, a lot of the content that will form the base of the match pass system or themes will be based around the partner clubs or any ambassadors. 100%.
It's funny.
One thing
No, you carry on, Gary.
I was just about to mention, one thing I will say that Konami in the past have done an absolute awful job at is the day one transfers. Obviously now they can't be like that where we'll wait like 4 months before they release it. So
don't say it, Sonny, don't say it.
Data packs, mate, data entries, isn't it? Listen, when that first happened, I went at Asim and at Adam on that one. I think I remembered I went into game and I made, you know, when you go into game and they got pre-order shelves for games that are coming out. I took a PES 2013 case and I put data pack on there and I put it in the pre-order thing, like, just to take the piss. Like, I was just like, I mean, but that was 2013. We just had Euro 2020 and it was the same issue. You know,
that's it. That's the thing. Like, they can't do that sort of thing now if they want to have, if they want this to be a success. They've got to be bang on all the time.
They can't make any mistakes now. The game lives and breathes online. You can't make any mistakes.
Yeah. I just want to touch
one random thought I had. One random thought, Sally.
You got the nicer top. You go first. You got the more relevant top. You go first. Yeah.
You can completely disregard this, but I was just looking at your background, and that again, the eFootball thing stands out because obviously the game is eFootball now. They've also done that for SEO reasons. So no one's searching for PES, or very few people are searching for PES. People will search for esports or eFootball, and that will come up on Google. 100%. That's also a big reason behind that.
And I think with the roadmap, and obviously, yes, I think they want to. It sounds and it looks like they want to completely rid themselves of any term that you reference with Pro Evolution Soccer or PES. You know, they're looking to, like, let's get these FIFA players in, but they've got to think of it as a brand new game. You know, and that's why they want to change My Club, and you know, they're changing all these terms and stuff. And
PES is a search term only relevant to us guys who kind of grew up with it.
Yeah,
football is a search term that's relevant to the current market. So in that regard, it's a smart move.
And it was really interesting because after the trailer, if you went onto Twitter, I mean, a lot of things that were trending were to do with the reveal trailer, but it was all hashtag. It was PES 2022, eFootball PES, eFootball PES 2022. It was never just eFootball. It was just they couldn't get it off. You know, like they couldn't do it. And just before we go on to the questions, you mentioned about the communication. There's 3 stages for a gamer. You know, there's doubt, there's cautious, and there's optimism. You know, and you could have swung the pendulum towards optimism by just giving us all the. They said we're not there yet, but we're gonna get there. This is what we're gonna do to get there. Okay, now you're swinging it that way. But if you keep it quiet, you get doubt. You know, and I would have been happy with cautious optimism. That way, I would not okay. I'm optimistic, but I'm cautious at the same time. But it swung more towards doubt for me because there wasn't enough information that I needed. Just tell me that you know where you need to get to. We're not there yet, but we're gonna get there. You know, I'll be like, okay, I respect that. You know, but we're not gonna get that. But we've gone way over time. You know, someone's gonna whoop my ass. You know, so we'll go straight into some questions. You know, so we've got Abel from the US. So, in your opinion, which previous game from previous years was your closest to perfection game or perfect game, and why? And I'm going to go to Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Arsenal are not going to be first for anything. So, Gary, you could go first this time, right?
The abuse is disgraceful.
But I mean, so of all previous, like Winning 11, J League, ISS, everything, what is Your
So, if you're talking about recent games, I would say PES 2013. That was like the sort of
the name
pinnacle, I think,
yeah.
of the yeah. But as any version of PES, I'd probably say PES 5 for me.
It's
I know a
what
lot.
you felt, what you played, not what the general consensus was, but for you.
I know a lot of people say PES 6, but that was sort of a weird one for me. I played it a lot, but not as much as the previous games. So I felt, for me personally, I think PES 5 was it was balanced perfectly. And I actually played that a lot more than I did any other PES game. So PES 13 for the PES 2013 for the newer games, and then PES 5, for the retro, if you want to call it.
So if you're going old school, I can tell. What's your close to perfection?
Winning 11. He's gonna go winning 11, 100%.
Yeah, he's
winning 11,
100%.
Winning 11 for me.
I've got them on my shelf with this somewhere as well.
You cleared out that shop.
Amazing.
It's which really, one? Go on, say it.
It's for me. It's between.
Such like all of them.
Although it had the slowdown, the winning 11-7 had the slowdown when you go into the penalty box. I love that game.
That's incredible.
And I remember when. So I'd have to say Final Evolution, because they dealt with the slowdown a little better with Final Evolution. But if I had to pick one, honestly, I'd probably go 10. Winning 11-10.
Great shout.
That's interesting, because like for me, I think there's two. If I had to pick, like, PES 3 is there. Hey! But you said
that's class.
That's old school, mate. That is old school. Similar to your, for me, it's weird. It's probably PES 2011, just because it felt less constrained. It felt like the freest that it was going to be. It felt like there was less interference. It felt like the game wasn't trying to make me do things. It just let me play football, and that was all I wanted. And that meant a lot to me. And I thought, oh my God, after what we've just gone throughout the entire PS3 generation, to then get 2011, and it was because we went through years of like, oh my God, I felt like Konami were just being shit housery to us, like, hey, have this game, and then 2011 came along, and I was like, this is all I wanted. This is all I wanted, and I was so happy that it came out. For me, that was my close to perfection, closely followed by PES 3. But I mean, Asim, your close to perfection game.
It looks like a PES 2008 guy.
No fucking way. Sorry, no fucking way. No fucking way. I
love it.
Close to perfection. I think winning 11-7, as Saf mentions, comes close. In terms of the PES games, I'm gonna be boring and go with Gary. PES 5 was like the most balanced PES that I played.
That was Adriano on the cover, right? The yellow cover.
PES 5 was PES 5.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Terry and Adriano. Yeah.
It was Terry. It was Terry and Henri, wasn't it?
Henri.
It's Henri.
Terry and Henri.
Yeah.
Terry and Henri. Yeah,
Six.
Terry
I'm thinking six.
Yeah.
Six. Adriano.
Yeah. PES 5. It was just
that commercial was
balanced.
So good for PES 5 as well, man. When they were like the TVs. And
so good.
It was amazing.
Back then, Konami got football culture. For all those PES, as you mentioned, they got football culture and they were ingrained in it. Like having Kasabians like Clubfoot playing as you loaded up the game. I can't remember which PES it was now, but I think it was 5, wasn't it? It was 5, wasn't it?
5, I think.
Yeah. I think it was 5. Loading up, that was like, it just got football culture at that time. It just nailed it. Everything about it.
Do you remember every time before there was a PS2 PES, PSM magazine would do a huge blowout?
Oh yeah, the spread.
I'm like, right, go to WH Smith.
Always.
Like a Bible, man. I used
Good
to
old Dan
love that.
Dawkins.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so another question here is from Benjamin from Hartlepool. So in regards to the franchise, what is the most frustrating thing for you that happens each year? It can be to do with gameplay, presentation, the reveal, demos, communications, or anything. So it can be absolutely anything. And we're going to go with Suff on this one.
I would have to say it's it's definitely the communications. But if I was to dig a little deeper and scratch below the surface, I would say it's around messaging and then not being able to deliver. That is the most frustrating thing for any consumer, right?
Sounds like a Man United transfer window.
Sounds about, yeah, it does. It really does.
Asim, what about yourself?
I could pick all of them really at some point.
I'm getting a popcorn for this one because yours is going to be.
I think as a fan, again, putting my fan hat on, it has always been the messaging and communication. And it's something when I was there, I tried to change. And like during those, like made them kind of almost understand like social media is a thing and fans are a thing and a community are a thing. And, hopefully during those 3 years, I did a decent enough job. But I think comms and messaging just generally and just acknowledging like, the community is a thing, it's there. Outside of the gameplay stuff, whatever frustrations might be, but you can be, as Seth said, you can be open and transparent about these things and set expectations. And just to communicate, communication and messaging, just to answer the question straight up.
And then Gary.
So mine's a mixture of pretty much all of them, I think. I think the main three for me are gameplay, modes, and communication. For me, like being a massive PES player, not so much now, but back in the day, I always used to look over the other side and think, wow, the way they've done like the branding of the Premier League, or the way they've done this, the way they've got all the modes integrated. And I always used to think, why can't Konami do that? So that used to always sort of annoy me a little bit. And then the whole gameplay side of things nowadays, where it just doesn't grab my attention like it used to. And then the big one is communication, which, it's been sort of it's been sort of non-existent. And the way they sort of, like we've sort of mentioned it, it's potentially a cultural thing. But it's just the way they sort of don't say enough, but at the same time sometimes say too much. It's just
I think what you said about presentation comes close second for me. The menus and just the general vibe. And if you're going to get licenses, use them properly. Make sure you're using them. Look across not only at your competitors but other sports games, how they use their licenses and how they use music. Music is the key. Like even the like going back to the trailer,
God, I hate
music.
That music.
Oh my God, the reveal trailer music was the worst.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Like you look at,
you're powerful.
Yeah, I know. Like you look at like not only other sports games, but look at like other brands, like how they use music to like sell their product. They use for FIFA, the soundtrack is a thing, and I'm going close to home here, like for
2K,
NBA 2K. I'm going close to home here. NBA 2K, we love to make a big deal of the soundtrack and the artists that are in the soundtrack. Whether they're homegrown artists, try to do as best as we can there. Whether they're like worldwide artists, have a good mix there. Music in a trailer is so important. I can't stress like it gets you immersed in what you're watching. FIFA had was it when they announced Champions League, they had Hans Zimmer doing the fucking soundtrack.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I remember
Hans
that.
Zimmer.
Yeah.
And then you have like what we had today, like presentation and the overall vibe that you get when you load up the game has always been a frustrating thing for me.
Fuck's sake, Gary! I got that song out of my head and you've put it back in, and now I keep saying it in my head. Fuck, man, shit.
So bad.
I'll go different. I grew up playing a lot of different sports games, and the one thing I used to love about the old WWE, WWF games and Knockout Kings and things like that was how immersed I was with the crowd and the surroundings. I mean, PS2, you could fight in the crowd on WWF game. That's how crazy. That's PS3, and there was the one thing that always I felt dejected by with PES, because football creates these moments. We've just had the last 2 years. Football is nothing without fans. You see the difference of what the Euros were like with the crowd there. It just changes everything. And then when you're playing a match in a football game, like in PES or anything like that, and FIFA hasn't been great at this either, but they've been taking strides, is just how can the crowd and the stadium create a difference. I miss the flares from the PS2 games. Just before kickoff, there'd be little flares around. It looked fake as anything, right? But it just still was there. Our minds would thinking like, yeah, this is going to be a big derby game, Inter versus AC, San Siro, there's flares everywhere. On PS4, I felt like I've had a pitch and then there's people over there, you know. And I tell you what, a shout out, Asim, close to home, NBA 2K last year. The crowd was, I spent more time looking at the crowd than I was like, oh, just throwing the ball out. But I was looking at the people getting up to go to the bathroom and that. But it creates that immersion. And then when you needed a point, you could see them sort of thingying. And the one thing about PES, it was always the same. Like, say you, in the last minute, you need to score, you hit the bar, there's that 1 second delay before the crowd react to it. And it used to piss me off so much. I'm like, fuck this, man. Like, you know. So yeah, that would be mine. Obviously, yeah, comms is the main one, but I thought would go somewhere different on that one. Carl from Glasgow, with the retirement of the PES name, we shed a tear for you. What is your absolute favorite PES memory? Now, I know that we're going to be all similar, so I'm going to switch this to two. One, gameplay memory, or something where you know, completely scored a last minute against your best mate and you went batshit crazy, or maybe it could be something to do with going to pick up the game, because that's what we used to do back in the day as young guys, right? We'd go to the shop. I'll give you one. I'll give you a physical one first. Electronics Boutique, that's how old I am, if you remember them. Me and my brother, we took our pads in a bag. We went to Electronics Boutique. We paid £2 for the demo disc. We got back on the bus. We opened the demo disc and it had the controller layout. And we'd be practicing on the bus home with the pad in our hands. But we went there all the way. We paid more for the bus fare than we did for the demo, but we wanted that demo disc. You know, and then we got home and we were like, right, we're ready to play now. You know, we got the pads, we got the demo disc. You want to talk about old school nerds? That's it right there. You know, people probably come on the bus and they do realize there's no TV attached to that or anything. Right? But we're sitting there like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You know, but I was so excited just to get that demo disc because that's how they used to do it back in the day. So, what about you? Have you got any memories?
Yeah, I've got two that stand out for me. The first one was actually the game that Asim just showed, winning 11-7. And Gary, we talked about this earlier, ordering it from Lick Sang.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
And basically, this was the early days of the internet.
And with those custom charges stuff.
Yeah. They give you a tracking number. And your boy was on edge. I remember it was like July or it was August time, yeah. And it was similar weather to this. Your boy was sat and back then I remember every house had one computer. It was this big massive fuck off machine that everybody used to fight with your siblings for that dial-up internet. And I remember dialing in and then going and then they sent it, I think they sent it by FedEx or something. And I remember putting in the code and just tracking it. And I do it 6 times a day. I track to see where my package was. And then the day they delivered it to the house, I just happened to be out with none of my family were at home. So they then sent it back to the depot. And I remember getting in my car. I literally got home, saw the note that they leave when it's a failed delivery.
Oh no!
Rushed into my car, got into my car, drove to the depot, got there, and then the guy was like, handed it over to me, and he was, and as he's about to pass it to me, he's like, 1 second, I need to check something on the system. I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, you do some custom charges. I'm like, oh. So then I had to pay the custom charges and then get in the car, get home. And that feeling when you pull into your driveway, you know you're about to experience it. That's one. Yeah. The second one was actually another experience that I had with a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, and we were playing Master League, and we used to play the 2-player. And I remember we needed it was the last, it was like I can't remember whether it was a cup game or a league game, and we were losing, and I think we needed to draw, and my mate basically just like whips this ball into the box. I head it, keeper makes a save. My mate's there for the rebound, tucks it away, and we both just these like two 19-year-olds jumping up in the air, hugging, and those are the moments, right?
Yeah, love it.
Definitely, Gary.
So yeah, I've got a similar one with like stuff with Lickstang. Just ordering them every year and just waiting. One thing that I never got hit by custom charges once.
Oh, you rubbing it in, making it worse for him.
Sorry, Suff.
That's all right, buddy.
But yeah, the other one is similar. I remember PES 2 game, you could pre-order it and you get the demo disc. And yeah, just like that was, because obviously PES 2, that was back in the day of the sort of start of the good era of PES. Just going home and just playing that constantly until basically the full game came out. And I believe it had just England and
Germany.
Germany in it.
One half, yeah.
That was it.
It was a sleeve. It wasn't even a case. It was a sleeve.
It was a sleeve.
That's
Yeah.
Fucking out memories, mate. Oh.
But yeah, just going to game and getting that was like, and I was young then as well, so I was like buzzing because it was like a new game, and I could just, obviously it was a demo, but when you're that young, you just don't care. You just like, this is new, so it's going to be amazing. So yeah, that was cool. And then gameplay wise, I suppose any Roberto Carlos free kick from like 35 yards, that used to be my thing. He was my guy back in the day. So yeah,
nice.
Good times.
Gameplay wise, I think it was playing. We used to have like, most like kind of younger teenagers back in the day would go out on New Year's Eve, go out, get drunk and whatever. Nah. What we used to do is we used to, I think one year we went to, my parents were like away, so I invited like all the lads over to my house, and we had a couple of TVs back to back. Arranged a couple of PS2s, and we had like a PES Master League tournament, and we saw that into the new year. Can't remember what year it was, but I think it was the year like PES 5 was out, I think it was. And just it was a great time. Like we had like food and drinks going and everything. It was just that will always stick in my head. Obviously I won the tournament as well, so that sticks in my head. But then like other gameplay stuff would be like where PES 6 playing against my mate Gary knows, Aaron Sullivan. I used to play a lot of PES with him from back in the NGB days. And we used to play online. I used to like destroy him with Adriano essentially. I remember scoring a goal essentially from the halfway line, top bins, like I think it was last minute, and he was like effing and blinding down the microphone, where I was just like taking the absolute piss out of it. It was hilarious. Adriano, yeah, you could score from the fucking menus with Adriano. That's how good he was.
Remember Recolba? Recolba's left.
Recolba, I used to have my 4-3-3 with them, like with Adriano, Recoba, who was it as well? I used to have like Cordoba as like one of the wing backs as well. You should just destroy everyone. There were two.
Edgar Davids as well. He was a legend.
Great memories.
There's one moment we can't forget. I think it was PES 2014. After playing in Windsor.
You've got the gif of it as well. I know you. I knew you.
That's hilarious.
Gets a corner. My defender heads it out. And Asim smashes it first time on the ball, top bins, and he just goes nuts. And we had a video recording our faces while we were playing, and
so funny.
Asim loses control. It's hilarious. He does this little spin. It's one of those office chairs. He does this little spin to celebrate.
I tell you,
that was early when we went to Windsor, right? Was it 2015?
Yeah, we were in Windsor.
15 or 14? I can't remember now. One of the two. Yeah.
I thought it was 14, but yeah, maybe 15.
Yeah.
I remember there's been so many memories, like, from hustling people. I used to work in a bar, And we used to hustle all the students that would come and stay in Birmingham, and everyone obviously used to play ISS and PES back in the day. So we're like, we play, just hustle them out of money, man, all the time and that. But I think just because I know the guy, and it's one of the funniest moments, and it was the first time I ever met Adam. So obviously we worked in the video game industry together at Ubisoft. So met Adam. We didn't know that we liked PES. I didn't know Adam had WEMB. I didn't know he liked PES. He didn't know that I liked PES. And it came up. We were sharing a room, and we were chatting about it, and it just came. I was like, I can't sleep. I wish I was just playing PES. And then obviously, fast forward, the next time we're in a hotel, which is a month later, I was like, when someone chats shit, I got to put them in their place. Adam is a master at that. He is. And I was like, fuck this. This geezer thinks I'm not going to do it. I packed up my PlayStation, bought that shit all down, ripped the TV's like HDMI protector off. We were like, let's play. And we only had time for one game before we all went out for dinner. And you know what they say, right? It's the first time that counts. You'll never forget your first time. So the first time we played, I beat him 2-1. I've never had so much evil from a guy over dinner in my life. You would have thought I stole his
because he wants that rematch, right? You want that rematch straight away.
No, dude. Like this is it. Like I'll be there. I'll be chatting. He's at the end of the table, so he's like onto my left diagonally. I'd be chatting, and then I turn, and it's just this. He's staring at me like he's stalking me.
Love it.
And then we get back to the hotel, and our boss goes, "Oh, let's go to the bar for a drink." I was like, "Yeah, Adam," because I fucked that upstairs now. You know what I mean? And that was it. The guy just spent 2 hours of hatred on me, man. And I again, like, you know how competitive we get in PES, right? And he whooped me the rest of that night. You know what I mean? But first time. That's all that matters.
I want to mention one last one and end on hopefully a positive note. Like generally, just PES in general. I think working on PES. I mean, like I forget sometimes that for 3 years I worked on PES. Growing up playing PES, it was an honor, to be honest. Like to work on PES and to like be. I mean, I got lots of shit from the community, but also there was lots of good parts to it as well. Like engaging with the community on a daily basis. There's lots of good people in the community as well still, and having that link with them, I think that was great as an experience for 3 years. And then Suff will know this one, like just because we weren't working on the game technically, but when me, Adam, and Suff, I think, and Alan from back in the day were in the manual for like 2 or 3 years running. I think it was 13 was the first one, right? 13 was the first one. I think. We used to like work with John Murphy and Steve Merritt quite closely, legends. Like giving them feedback and stuff like that. They used to really reach out to us. So that was an honor. And just meeting you guys through PES. Meeting like lifelong friends.
It's crazy.
Like we forget about that. Like we touched upon it at the start, but we forget about the actual real life relationships we've made through PES. And like how it's brought us all together and to be on this podcast at this precise moment.
Excellent. Can I just give a shout out? One quick thing about Alan. I remember we went down to a PES day in Windsor. Was it Windsor? Yeah. And I got teamed up to play Alan. We're talking about Scottish Alan, right? Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I know you don't. I work for a site, so I'll go easy on you." That pissed me off when he said that. I fucked him up. Like, I'm not joking. But Adam was like, "You need to stop." I was like, "This geezer's getting double digited by the end of this game. I don't give a shit." And then I whooped him so bad, and then Nico was like, "I'll play him." And I was like, "I'm gonna fuck this geezer up as well, isn't it?" It's like everyone just keep chatting it, and that's what I love about it. It's like the ultra competitiveness of PES, But if anyone wants to chat to you guys about PES, Gary, where can they talk to you? What's your Twitter handle or anything like that? You give it out.
Twitter at Gary Clark. Pretty straightforward. So yeah, I'm always on there lurking and.
Is that Gary with an I, right?
Yeah, winding people up. So yeah, come over and try and wind me up.
Mate, they just got to talk Arsenal. That's all they've got to do, mate. Well. So if anyone wants to chat to you about old school PES and chat to you about eFootball and anything like that, or share stories, where can they find you?
definitely hit me up on Twitter. Twitter is definitely the easiest way to reach me. At my first name, at Suffwan. Boom.
Excellent. I'll put them all in on the description. And Asim, where can they abuse you if they want to get
They
to
can,
you?
they can abuse me. I mean, my abusing days are over. It's more people agreeing with me now. But no, they can reach me at Asim Tanvir. It's just my full name.
Excellent. And listeners, again, this was only supposed to be 60 minutes. We went 2 hours.
Pez
does that,
Pez.
right? You know what I mean? But guys, I want to thank you all so very much for making the time to do this. It was a big day for eFootball today. It missed the mark, so we wanted to talk about it, and we did. But we'll see, we'll see where we go on that front on there. But listeners, thank you very much for listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There'll be more PES supplements. There'll be another one tomorrow, which will feature Wes from PES Universe and David Fish. We'll definitely
I'm gonna watch that one. I'm gonna watch that one.
We'll definitely, as we progress during the roadmap and the timeline, we'll get people back on as well to discuss what they're playing, how they feel about it. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're all pleasantly surprised and we're happy and we are eating our words. If not, I'm ready for you, Asim. Don't worry about that. I'm ready for you. But everybody, thank you so much for listening and thank you so much for watching. Good night, everybody. Boys, holy shit.